DND number 9, Circle of Life, in Jesus' name, chapter 27. Once out of the big meeting, Gabe immediately sought Taylor. She wasn't feeling too well and went upstairs to find a place to lie down, Bree said. Well, may I go see her? Yes, of course. Do you know what room she's in? Bree turned to Agent Ward. Do you know which room Taylor went to? Yes, ma'am, the second room to the last on the west side. That's my room, Gabe said with a smile. I mean, currently. Thanks. He trotted upstairs, softly opened the door. Taylor was sleeping. He came in quietly and sat on the bed next to her. She stirred and opened her eyes. Hey. Hey, Tay. Your mom says you're not feeling well. I'm really tired and a little nauseated, but I'm okay. I'm going to go get Jeffy. Been there, done that. She says I'm good. Oh, okay, then. So you want me to let you sleep? No, I want you to sleep with me. He smiled at the words. Well, I'm not really sleepy, but I'll stay with you. He sat down on the side of the bed. I guess you know you're in my bed. Was that on purpose? Yes, I wanted to smell you while I sleep. I didn't shower last night before I went to bed because we got home so late, but I bet it doesn't smell very pleasant. It smells wonderful, he chuckled. You know, this used to be my father's room a long time ago, Taylor said. Really? Yes, and the room your dad is in was my mother's room. Excuse me. Oh, yeah, that's right, because they were brother and sister, kind of, sort of. Right. She patted the bed. Lay down next to me. Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. You did it last night in the hospital. Well, I knew we weren't alone, and you were not in danger of me doing anything to you. Am I in danger now? Not as long as I keep my distance. She giggled. What do you think you would do? Stop. She sighed. Sorry. So you guys were in there a long time. Did you make any life plans, or will it take a few more sessions? I think we got it down. When he didn't say anything else, she turned toward him. Gabe, tell me what you decided. He laughed. I'm going to try to become one of Jason's elite. I start training beginning of September. She smiled. Awesome. And they train here in California, right? So that means you'll be here close to me. Yes, that's what that means. She sat up and squealed and threw her arms around his neck. Oh my goodness, I am so happy. Hold on, don't get too excited. Training means long hours and sleeping at the barracks. And when I'm not training, I'll be going to school. My only time off will be Sundays, and I'll be desperate to see you on Sundays, but I will also need to be back in the barracks by 2100 hours. Well, when is leave? I remember agents having leave. Vacation. This isn't the military. In order to get a vacation, I have to be an agent first, and when that happens, I'll need to see my family. She frowned. So when will we see each other? Well, Sundays for sure. I don't know about other times. I'll have to wait and see if and when I have downtime. But Tay, you'll be a senior. You'll have so much to do, so much to keep you occupied. You won't have time for me either. I just want to be with you, Gabe. Whenever you're not around, I feel like I'm going to go crazy. I get it, Tay, because I feel the same way. But we have to learn to focus on the present moment. I hate when men say that. He grinned. Did you just call me a man? She smiled. I guess I did. You certainly fought like a man yesterday. He stroked the bandage on his neck. It didn't feel like he had. He thought of his approaching birthday, and he realized that the number 18 didn't magically suddenly make him a man. He sighed and tried to focus on this present moment, which was all about the girl he was in love with. So guess what? Today we discovered that your grandfather and I have the same birthday. Oh my goodness. I knew your birthday is a week from Friday, but I didn't put it together. Your birthday is June 14th? Yes, and you guys are coming on Wednesday before the wedding, so I'll get to see you on my birthday. Are you having a party? No, I don't want to mess up Jake's and Lena's special day, so Grandmaster Kino said we'd have a little birthday breakfast. But their wedding is messing up your special day. Well, a wedding only happens once. Birthdays happen every year. But your 18th birthday only happens once. It's no big deal, really. I appreciate you caring so much, but I would rather put the attention on Jake and Lena. It's their time. Besides, Jake and Lena are giving me the best present I could have on my birthday. Really? What? You? They are why you'll be there. He paused. So, tell me again, when is your birthday? August 30th. So I'm 1 and 2.5 months older than you. 1 year and 2.5 months. Funny, if we were like my mom and dad, it wouldn't seem like much difference at all. But right now, I guess because you're still in high school, it seems like a huge difference. Well, my dad is 3 years older than my mom. She was only 18 when they met. So your dad is only a year older than your mom? Oh, no, I was just using them as an example. My mom was only 24 when she met my dad, and he was 31. They're 7 years apart. Wow. And she already had your sisters when they met, so she had 5 babies by 24. Yeah, she had 5 babies by 21. I only know because I've heard her tell the story so many times. Wow, 5 children and so young. Yeah, and her husband was deployed most of that time. She's a strong lady, my mom. She took care of the kids and put herself through nursing school and became a nurse at a hospital in Atlanta, and that's how she met my dad. He was in a car accident. There's a lot more to the story, and one day when we have lots of time, I'll tell you the rest. But for now, I'm going to let you rest here in my bed. I like the sound of that. What? Me in your bed. I like the sound of it too. I'm thinking maybe one day it'll be more than that, unless you find some other boyfriend while I'm away trying to figure out how to become a man. Thinking about your mom with 5 babies makes me want so much to be the one to have your babies, Gabe. He blew out a breath and gave a soft groan. She giggled. What? Did I say the wrong thing? Am I going too fast? Oh, it's not that. It's just thinking of you having my babies. It's a total turn on. You don't realize what you do to me when you say things like that. Everything you say gives me a visual. No, I didn't realize, but I'll be sure to remember it, she teased. He smiled. Gabe, I've been thinking about something seriously. About what? This Dr. Black guy. He wants you dead because he's worried that you're going to take my virginity. I know. He doesn't know us, doesn't understand our faith and our strength. She frowned. Let me finish. He doesn't want you to have me because I guess he wants to be the one to, be the first, which totally freaks me out. You know, he held me captive with Kimmy and Jeffy. I was only 13 and I was so scared, but I remember he wanted Jeffy and I thought I would throw up. Well, we won't let him near you. Yeah, but the same guy figured out how to take my grandparents, and he's a high genius. What if he knows something we don't realize? So I was thinking they said he didn't want me to be sullied, which means to be made dirty, to defile, to make impure. Right, he smiled. You looked that up, didn't you? She nodded. Well, I wanted to be sure it meant what I thought it meant. So Dr. Black doesn't want me if I'm not a virgin. What if you do exactly what he thinks you'll do? What if you and I, have sex, and then Dr. Black wouldn't want me anymore, and there'd be no reason to kill you because the deed would already be done? Gabe smiled. Well, that's a fine argument and very tempting. Why don't you present that argument to our parents? No, they just say something like, we won't allow ourselves to be held hostage and terrorized and made to do something against our will, or our souls are not for sale, and we won't break God's laws to save our earthly lives when our spiritual lives are so much more important. Gabe smiled and nodded and remained silent. Taylor sighed and looked down. Wow, you just did a granddad. Gabe chuckled, thinking that was an immense compliment. Geez, I feel like I'm Eve tempting you with an apple. Great analogy. He pushed her back down on the bed and laid next to her like she'd originally asked and pulled her close. I'm in love with you, Taylor Keno, and there's nothing more I'd like to do than to marry you and make love to you and have children with you and live happily ever after with you. He gently kissed her still swollen mouth. But Tay, you're young, and I'm young, and you may not still want me in a few years. You know, they say young love can change pretty fast, and I know that's what they say because I looked that up. So until you graduate from high school and figure out where to go to college, or even if you want to go to college, or whatever you want to do, I'll wait for you. If you wait for me, that would be cool. If you don't, well, that hurts too much to think about right now, but I would eventually accept it. She stroked his face and touched the bandage on his neck, then put her fingers on his lips. What if what if I don't want to have a career? What if my goal is to be a wife and mother and raise a giant house full of warrior children? Would you think I'm being lazy or stupid? You're kidding, right? My father says, and I agree with him, that there is no nobler career choice than to run a home and take care of and teach and feed and raise your children, and no one better equipped than a woman because they're so strong and they never give up and they work harder than anybody he knows. So, Taylor, being a wife and mother is not shameful in any way, so don't let anyone tell you that. I mean, if that's what you want to do. My mom won a Grammy and has been criticized for giving up her singing career to raise her family. My dad has also been criticized for being some kind of caveman who keeps her barefoot and pregnant, I think is the expression they use. But I'm not a bit ashamed of my mom. She's smart. She's talented. She puts up with a lot of crap from us kids, mainly me. She's beautiful. She never complains, and she keeps us all close to God. She's amazing. And she says if she spent the time making albums at the end of her life, she'd have a few albums. But if she spends time raising a family at the end of her life, is another entire generation of people, much more important. Taylor frowned. But hey, if you want and need more than that, that's cool too. Whatever you want to do, Tay, you figure it out. I'll support you no matter what, even if what you want to do doesn't include me. I realize that you don't believe me because I'm young, Gabe, but wait and see. I will want you. I think it's you who could change. He sighed. Well, of course, that's possible, but let's not talk like that. If we sit around and worry that our feelings might change, then it's like we could make that happen. So let's think positive. I love you, you love me, and we both have an awesome future in front of us. Yep, and as long as you don't get murdered and I don't get kidnapped and raped and made to have some loony guy's babies. Yeah, as long as that doesn't happen, he said, with a slight laugh. He kissed her cheeks. Sleep for a while. I'm going to go have a snack and I'll come get you for dinner. They're having a giant family dinner and I love those. Me too. He watched as she turned over and closed her eyes, then quietly left the room. New scene. Outside in the hall, Gabe could hear the rumble of his father's deep voice in the next bedroom as he spoke on the phone. His father. Always taking care of business. After all, it was a work day. Gabe started toward the front stairs and came upon Agent Ward, Taylor's assigned bodyguard, and Agent Trout, his own bodyguard, as they sat on the steps speaking softly. They stood as Gabe started down the stairs. Hey, Gabe greeted. Mr. Tanner, they both said. Gabe stopped. Seriously? You can't call me that. Or what should we call you then? He grinned. You can call me Gabe or Tanner or Kid or Hey You, but not Mr. Tanner. I mean, I'm a kid. I haven't earned that respect yet. The only person who ever calls me Mr. Tanner is my high school principal, and that's when I'm in trouble. But you guys are Ameritech agents that I aspire to be like one day. So hopefully one day you can call me Agent Tanner. They smiled. You're joining the ranks? Agent Trout asked. Yes, sir. I start training in September, but if you ever want to work with me before then and give me a head start, that would be cool. I can arrange that, Agent Trout said, but we only have 2 days to do it because you leave Friday morning. I do? You didn't know? Well, when we got here yesterday, my dad didn't know how long we would stay. Well, we have until Friday, and I understand we're hitting the shooting range early tomorrow morning. We can meet on the beach after that. Yes, sir, that sounds great. He headed down. See you then. Oh, I imagine you'll see me a lot before then. Gabe got to the bottom of the steps and waved at the ladies in the living room, all sitting on the floor, playing with the little ones. Building blocks and coloring books and crayons, action figures and dinosaurs lay all around. He stopped when Bree called his name, and he turned back into the living room. Yes, ma'am. How's she doing? Oh, she's asleep right now. She seems fine. She said she was slightly nauseated, but like she wasn't throwing up or anything. Bree smiled. Great report. Gabe, little 7-year-old Sophia yelled. Gabe moved forward and knelt down in front of her. I'm right here. You don't have to yell at me. She giggled and yelled his name even louder. Oh, I'm going to get you for that, he said as he wrestled her down and tickled her. And she screeched in delight. And 3-year-old Kelson threw down her crayons and jumped up and jumped onto Gabe's back. Who's that on my back? He said menacingly as he pulled her down and pinned the giggling girl to the floor. Oh, it's Cowbell. Well, you're in for it now. He tickled her mercilessly. And the plump little 2-year-old Ledger got to his feet and lifted his arms up to Gabe. He stood and put his hands on his hips. What, you two? Oh, man, you're going to fly. He picked him up and spun him around in the air several times, then set him down carefully. Little man, you're heavy, Gabe complained. He had his hands on Ledger's sides. Can you walk straight? He let him go and followed for a few seconds, making sure he wasn't too dizzy to walk. He switched attention down to 3-year-old Emily, who was demanding her turn to be tickled, which he took care of immediately. Gabe glanced up at Daniel and Jeremy Davis on the sofa and smiled. Hey, guys. Hey, Gabe, the boys answered. We're from the place on the sofa where they've been playing the latest football video game. What are you playing? Madden football. Gabe frowned. How about we go down to the beach and play some real football? Yeah, Daniel answered. Cool. Let me grab something to eat and I'll see if I can round up a few people. The boys smiled. Gabe looked around at all the ladies in the room. Taylor's mom, Bella and Breeze Adams, who were Mark and Joey's wives, and Mrs. Davis, Jeff's wife, and Mrs. Keno, Grandmaster Keno's wife, and 2 Mrs. Lees, Jason and Justin's wives. They were all grinning at him. What? Did I do something wrong? Gabe asked. Shelley rose from her place on the floor and came and put her hands on his cheeks. No, sweetie. You did everything right. Oh, Gabe. I do love you, she sighed. His face turned a bright red. I love you too, Mrs. Keno. She smiled. Well, go on now. There's lots of food laid on the island. Yes, ma'am. He hurried out. In the kitchen, he grabbed a plate and filled it with several finger sandwiches, some chicken wings. Thinking of his mom, he stopped and grabbed up a couple of baby carrots and dunked them in some ranch dressing and stuffed them in his mouth, crunching loudly, and then grabbed a cold bottle of water. He glanced over at the 2 couples sitting at the kitchen table, Jeffy and Cam and Kimmy and Jensen, and he nodded in greeting because his hands were full and his mouth was full. They smiled. Are you sure you can't fit something else on that plate? Cam asked. He shook his head again because his mouth was full. Shrugging, he turned and headed into the larger dining room where young Eric, Jojo, and Logan currently sat, apparently having finished their food and just chilling. What's up, guys? Gabe greeted as he took a seat next to Jojo. Not much, young Eric said. Gabe quickly gave thanks for his food and stuffed 2 finger sandwiches into his mouth. He eyed young Eric, who sat at the end of the table. Jojo sat to Eric's left and Logan to his right. So, Eric, Gabe began, I just wanted to say thanks for you coming out there yesterday and rescuing me. Eric blew out a breath. Yep, no worries. That was some crazy stuff. Gabe touched his cheek. Yeah, it was. I thanked God last night 100 times. Eric nodded. How's the throat? It's sore, but it beats the alternative. Eric nodded again. So, does it bother you? I mean, your dad shooting that guy. Gabe shrugged. Again, it beats the alternative. But I didn't see it. My eyes closed when my dad told me to move my head, and I didn't see anything afterwards, so I don't have those images in my brain like you do. I know it's hard. How are you feeling about it? I do have those images in my brain, and my dad told me to break it down into segments, and that would help. Segments? Yeah, like certain things were good, certain things bad. Like first, that was an amazing shot. Your dad was so calm. He knew he could save you. He was confident, and you had total faith in him. Gabe nodded. Total. In him and in God. And then there's the image of that hole appearing right in the middle of the guy's forehead, just like your father warned. He had a look of surprise on his face. I was thinking that at that moment he regretted his decision, but it was too late. I'm sorry you had to see that, but I'm grateful to be alive. And then, Eric went on, almost as if he were in a trance. He fell back. He didn't like just crumple down. It was like he was stiff as a board and fell backward like a tree falling. And because he had his arm around your throat, you fell with him. Gabe swallowed. And your dad and my granddad pulled you away and started trying to stop the bleeding. You were alive, and that was good, but all I could see was that guy lying on his back in the sand, his eyes open, a tiny trickle of blood running from that black hole. I remember pacing on the beach. I thought I was going to throw up. Gabe's eyes filled. I'm sorry, Eric. Eric looked at Gabe with surprise. Oh, I'm not blaming you. It was a hard lesson to learn, though, that there is real evil in this world, and that evil could have killed you, and that evil could have taken my little sister. But God went out of his way to warn us, and when we weren't vigilant enough, he sent messages to Jeffy and to Granddad, and if we hadn't moved as quickly as we did, think about it. Another minute later, and when we got out there, you would have been the one lying in the sand and no sign of Taylor. He shuddered. But it's like, I know you've been through so much lately. This is probably old hat to you. Old hat? No. I don't think you ever get used to it. Even my father has a hard time every time he has to step forward and do what he has to do. Really? Yeah. He's not like a hardened monster who thinks nothing about killing someone. He hurts. He suffers. But like Grandmaster Kino says, he's a warrior, and God put him on earth to be a warrior. Well, he has my complete respect, Jojo said. Mine too, young Eric said. Your dad is a good man, and my father honors and respects him, and I'm just struggling, I guess, because I've never seen anyone killed right in front of me. Well, I'll pray for you to be able to get over this, Gabe said. I had a hard time with my kidnapping afterward. I couldn't sleep. I had terrible nightmares. It sucks. But God is toughening me up. For what? I don't know. That's just what my dad and Grandmaster Kino say. So I'll just trust God and keep walking the path he has set for me. Jojo reached up and patted Gabe on his back. You're a good guy, Gabe. I'm glad we decided to sit here and wait for you to come eat. You were waiting for me? Yep. We haven't had a chance to talk to you much since you've been here. Not this time and not last time. We decided it was time for a heart-to-heart. Oh, Gabe said. Sounds like I'm in trouble. So this you'd better not hurt Taylor kind of talk? They chuckled. Nope. Is it you better not have sex with my sister kind of talk? Of course not, young Eric said. That is understood, and we know you have a lot to live for. Gabe's brows rose at the thinly veiled threat. This is a come to Jesus kind of talk, Jojo said. Gabe nodded. Okay, lay it on me, he said as he chewed on a wing. Gabe, Logan began, the three of us have always known you were a special guy. I haven't known you as long as Joe and Eric, but I remember asking them one time when you were only about 9 years old, who is that kid? They told me all about you and all about your family. And from that time forward, every time I saw you, it was like something strange. It reminded me of something. I reminded you of something? Yes, Jojo said, jumping in. You reminded him of an experience we had back when Logan was only 11 and Eric and I were 12. Gabe finished his food and started on his cupcakes. Okay, he said. Go on. Well, the three of us were on a bike trip up in a canyon